All right, good morning, good evening, good night. It is another Nifty Q show. Welcome in. We're interviewing influential founders, leaders, and people in the NFT industry. Today I'm talking with crypto raiders about their NFT-based dungeon crawler, current gameplay mechanics, Raider and Aurum tokens, and potentially being the game of the year in 2022. I'm sitting here with Nick, aka Sophisticated Art Speculator, co-founder of Crypto Raiders. What is going on, my man? CaptainKix. I was just giving him a hard time. This is CaptainKix. What is going on, Nick?
Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show. Love what y'all doing here, and excited to talk Crypto Raiders and just the gaming space in general with you.
Yeah, I want to hit on that name real quick, CaptainKix. I ate kicks when I was a young
Oh
kid, so I
yeah,
don't know if that was like what you were going for.
Kix was a jam, but then also when ENS did their airdrop, or like a couple weeks before or after, I was looking around at like good ENS domains I could scoop, and Kix.eth, Kix.eth was like zero point 0.4 Ethereum or something like that. So I scooped it, and I bought an ape around the same time with a captain hat. And so I kind of just meshed the two together. I was like, there we go. Nice little new name for me.
Shout out to the Bored Apes here in the house. Respect to you, my brother. Hopefully we get a nice little token airdrop in the next couple months as well. So
It's going to feel so good. It's free money.
let's talk about your project, man. Actually, before that, let's hit on some other things. Game of
Cool.
the year in 2022. That's been like thrown out by a couple of the videos that I've seen. Twitter. People talking about what's happening in the play to earn space. How do you feel about being mentioned as like potentially one of the games of the year?
Yeah, I mean it's very exciting to be mentioned as a candidate for a reward like that. It's going to take a lot of work to win that. We're 1 month in, got 11 more to go, and there's a lot of great competition in the space. I mean, we have a lot of great competition from last year, but this year it's gonna 10x. So it's going to be a challenge to not just build a great game, but to stay relevant and in demand and in people's minds. It's a multifaceted thing. We have to build a great game, but we also have to make sure that people are aware of it and are playing and enjoying it. But I feel really confident in what we're doing this year. Last year we built for like 6 months just completely under the radar, and recently we've been getting a lot more attention. So it feels good, but we got a strong roadmap. So I think it's in the cards.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that roadmap here in a second, as well as a lot of the token mechanics and the gameplay stuff for people who aren't interested. I want to give a quick shout out to Crypto Stamina, who told me to buy your NFTs as well as the Raider token like 4 or 5 months ago, and I didn't, and also helped set up this interview. So shout out to Crypto Stamina, who is a community member of yours.
He's
as
the
well.
man.
Yeah, he's definitely the man. So right before I get to your background, man, there was one piece of news that hit the industry pretty hard that has obviously some relevance in the NFT gaming space, but it looks like Microsoft acquired Activision and Blizzard for like 70 bill. What do you make of that as it kind of permeates its way down to the NFT gaming space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really great for this space. I'd say that it's on a level of significance of when Nike acquired Artifact, just in terms of a really big corporation like setting their eyes in a meaningful, actionable way to go into NFT gaming and the metaverse and Web3 and all of that. There's been a lot of studios out there that have said that they're going in, or companies out there that have said that they're going to explore it. But I mean, this is a $70 billion acquisition to attack, for this big corporation to like really try to get into there. So I'm of the philosophy like a rising tide lifts all ships. So I think that projects in general probably would get a lot more investor intention, or we've experienced a lot, but I think it's only going to increase, especially for really strong games, especially after this news, because it's going to wake people up and be like, that are sitting in hedge funds, venture capital. They're going to be like, are we positioned properly for this, or are we getting front run by literally Microsoft? So I think it's really net good for this space. I'm not too concerned as my buddy Pio calls it NFT native projects, and those are projects that kind of come from Web3 crypto versus like Microsoft and Facebook are coming from Web2 into this space. I think that even though we may not have as much financial resources, we have a better understanding of the space, and we're going to be able to build products that really work because we understand how it should work. So I don't think people should be freaking out and being like, It's going to be over in a year or two. You know, the big corporation is going to run the whole show. Hey, in life, they run a lot of the show, but you know, all of us indie builders, we can get 20% of the pie and still, you know, do great things.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you made, and there's a lot of comparisons to be made to like Meta and Facebook, of course.
Totally.
Does this catalyze NFT adoption in the games within Blizzard? Do you think? Like, do you think Microsoft has the thought process there of like, hey, we're going to bring NFTs to COD, or do you think this maybe slows it down? Maybe Activision and Blizzard were thinking about it, and now that's put on hold.
Great question. So I look at it in two parts. One is that they said they're going into the metaverse. They never mentioned NFTs, right? So it could be more that they're looking at it from like competing with Facebook, right? So like Microsoft may be trying to compete more with Facebook than actually building NFT games, but they're acquiring Blizzard, right? And Blizzard makes games. So you would assume that they would, you know, be interested in that as well. I did hear an interesting conversation on the Oh Shiny podcast yesterday where a former Activision employee came on and said that for years he's been trying to convince them to get into NFTs and they've really expressed no interest. But now Microsoft's in charge, right? Yeah. So if that's what they want, it definitely could start happening there. I think it's inevitable. I really do think it's inevitable. It's like any other piece of technology. At a certain point, the companies have to adapt or die. But I do believe that the big studios, they're going to approach it differently, right? It's going to be on chains that they can control, or they're not going to be launching on Ethereum, right? They're not going to be launching a project on Ethereum mainnet. I don't think it's going to be still controlled ecosystems.
Their own walled garden, if you will. I want to give a shout out here to the chat. The Nifty Q Show is live on YouTube, of course, but we do have audio podcast afterwards, usually about 24 hours. If you guys want to listen to that on audio form on all your different podcasting pieces there. But we're live, so we get live comments. Dustin is in the chat saying, "When Microsoft acquiring Raiders," and Tomo is saying, "Let's go Sauce." So you got some fans in the house.
Love it. Yeah, I tweeted in the Crypto Raiders Discord. Awesome for people to hop on here. But yeah, Microsoft did acquire Minecraft, so they do like pixel projects, right? So maybe there's something there.
There you go. Yeah, that's the alpha on the channel for today. Nick, I want to go into your background and then we'll make it into Raiders. How did you get into crypto? I know that's a general question that you probably get a lot on these, but then how did you make your way into the NFT space? Let's hit that timeline.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 10 or 11 years, mostly in the online advertising space. So I started off in SEO, and it's funny because I was in this forum Wicked Fire back in 2011, and they were talking about Bitcoin when it was at $50, and I thought it was the stupidest thing of all time. And how dumb am I in hindsight, right? I could be retired on an island right now if I had put in $2,000.
Thank God you didn't. You're building Crypto Raiders.
Exactly. Life is a journey, right? You don't want to change a path in the past. You may not know where you'll be in the future. So I watched the whole, crypto run in 2017 and didn't get in. But then in 2020, after COVID, I think a lot of people, that was a big catalyst for them getting into crypto. So got into crypto in 2020, right in March. And then January is when I started my NFT career. So I started off as a trader, mostly on Nifty Gateway. Then I moved over to OpenSea. And built up a trading reputation and a following on my Twitter. And so I started getting people hitting me up to consult on their projects. And I got a few experiences to see behind these projects and see how like the meat is made, for lack of a better word. And I was like, hey, this isn't some mystical thing. Like, it's actually very doable to launch your own project. And so I talked with a few buddies, and we're big long-term gamers. We've been gamers our whole life. And this was back in June and July. So we saw a huge space, and we saw the trend going to NFT gaming. And of course, there was already Axie Infinity then, and Zed Run, and a couple of other projects, but it wasn't as obvious NFT gaming as it is today. And we saw this real opportunity for like a RuneScape or a World of Warcraft-esque game, like an MMO RPG. It's something we've played our whole lives. So we saw an opportunity there, launched our project in July, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I want to get to the project, but there's a lot to unpack there. So you were getting into NFTs in 2021, start of 2021, January.
Yeah, January.
And it was on Nifty Gateway. So art was your specific like intro into NFTs?
Yeah, because I mean, at the time, not the only other choice, but it was really that or Top Shot. You know what I mean? And Top Shot had already sort of started to run at the time I was getting in. And I mean, there was collectibles, here and there for sure. I mean, CryptoPunks was around, right? But they're like, I feel like Bored Ape, Yacht Club really made the collectible, side of NFTs really take off like a rocket. So
Yeah.
in January, it was really like art or Top Shot, and I just kind of thought I got the art side better, but didn't know what I was doing for weeks. But I was super lucky. Timing is everything in this space. If you don't know what you're doing and you get in during a massive bull run, you make money even regardless, because everything 2 or 3x's. So I was buying just random stuff, and it was 3 or 5xing, but I also didn't know what I was doing. So I paper handed some real primo pieces, but rolled up a nice stack. I traded there from January through like end of March, and then Nifty Gateway went in like a brutal bear market. So I pulled some cash out and then sat on the sidelines, and then went back to OpenSea like a month after that.
Yeah, so kind of a lightning question here. Investment thesis as it comes to NFTs. Maybe when you were first getting in, you're saying you're just buying everything because everyone's smart in a bull market there. But what is that investment thesis look like now for NFTs?
Yeah, for me personally, I mean, it's such a diverse space now, right? There's art, there's collectibles, there's gaming, there's metaverse plays. And now that I'm spending much more time building, I'm not as much on the pulse of trading. Like I used to trade in and out of just random projects. Like literally, I don't know if anyone remembers Dark Super Bunnies. Like it was this Super Bunny like collectible project in like July of last year. I made a stupid amount of money on it. Like I would just trade in and out of projects. Now I have to kind of pick higher conviction long-term plays that I don't have to worry about what the floor is going to be in 12 hours. And so for me, I'm really focused on gaming projects and metaverse projects. PFPs are great. I'm just not as good at them anymore. And I also just think on a long-term horizon, it doesn't make as much. I don't think that's where a lot of the growth is going to be. I think a lot of the growth and the attention is going to eventually shift to like gaming and utility. So just profile pick projects, on a long-term horizon. I think there's money to be made. Don't get me wrong, but just like my focus is elsewhere.
And there's also that evolution of PFP projects wanting to be games, right?
Exactly.
We're going to eventually be games.
Exactly. And that's kind of that was the kind of the signal to me, right? When all of the NFT projects start like adding play to earn mechanics and add game mechanics, and it's like, well, then why don't I just invest in actual game projects from the get-go, not people that are like doing 180s? And then also you have a chance of getting someone that's or a team that's maybe more competent at gaming itself.
This is not me trying to create any like viral content or get you into trouble, but Axie Infinity, of course, was like one of the main gaming projects at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were looking at that if you were looking to get into founding your own company. What are some things you take from Axie Infinity, like doing things right and doing things maybe poorly?
Totally. So the one like really great takeaway we took away from Axie Infinity is despite despite the problems with SLP right now, they built a good tokenomic structure. It's not that the tokenomics themselves stink. It's the emissions right now of the emission side, right? That is just putting out way too much supply, and it's keeping the price very suppressed. So we actually took a lot of learnings from them when we built our own tokenomics at Crypto Raiders. And I mean, they have an incredible game. I think that they had to deal with the problem of scaling. I was listening to interviews with them. They were running like millions of battles an hour or something like that. And so they weren't really able to innovate. They just had to scale up to this crazy demand. And now they're having to play catch up on the innovation side. For us, it definitely made us take a more calculated approach to just our philosophy around play and earn and in emissions and how people can earn. Because if you make that the primary reason why people are joining, then when that goes away, then the primary reason why people wanted to play goes away as well. So we're looking at other things like eventually long-term, we want the value in our NFTs to be the gear that drops in dungeons. So instead of you walking out of a dungeon with $50 in Aurum, you walk out in a dungeon with a weapon that's worth $50. And we think that creates like a different economic effect than them just having a token and dumping. Now they have an item. They maybe attach that item and want that item, save it for later. They may trade it to a friend. They may go sell it on the market, but then there's a buyer for it. You know what I mean? And I think it will create a little different liquidity.
Yeah, there's something like psychological as well, like looking at a floor price as opposed to a fungible token chart.
Yeah.
There's something psychological there where I'm like, okay, I can deal with maybe a floor price going down, whereas 10% down on my token.
On a token, it feels so differently. Yeah, and it's like if you get a Christmas gift, right? If you just get cash versus if you get like an actual gift, what is the friction to getting it into cash and then using it? There's a different effect. Right now, Axie's just dropping cash into people's wallets, and they don't have a lot to spend it on. I was talking to some people. It's like, imagine if you got paid in US dollars, but the only thing that you could use it for was to pay your rent. You would convert it into a different currency that you could do other things with. So I'm still a very big believer in Axie Infinity because they're building a studio and they've raised so much money and they have such exposure that I think that they're going to turn things around. I don't think like Axie's going to, die out in this terrible way. I think they'll be able to turn things around.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think they have the first mover advantage, of course, there. I had Fancy Birds on, who is looking to like launch into mobile and do some things in the play to earn space, and they were bringing up the point of like play to earn or play first versus earn first, and I think that's like the best way to put it. Like I think like the best teams are going to do that balance correctly, as opposed to like, hey, you're only here to earn, right? Do you have a philosophy on like how? I mean, I guess you kind of just laid it out, but do you have any more thoughts there on that? Play first versus earn first in the space?
Yeah, and part of what we've like structured, how we've structured our game is that the earnings potential comes at the top end. So the highest level you can be right now is level 8. So the earnings potential is heavily weighted towards the top end, which means that, you can come in at with a new raider level 1, level 2, and you can earn out some, but really the incentive is to get to level 8. And in order to catch up to level 8, you actually have to spend Aurum, not sell it. So we've made it so that we're building it so that it's not, people aren't just going to buy an asset and then start playing and just dumping. They're like buying an asset to improve it over time. And then when they get to a top end level, they're able to like earn, and they can use that to further improve their gear or participate in duels tournaments, or they can, start earning then. So it's like World of Warcraft, right? Like the primary thing you do in World of Warcraft is get to the max level, and then you get to enjoy this like deeper level of gameplay. So there's that, and then also we are really looking at like how can we just get people in to experience the game and then learn about crypto and NFTs later. I think that's the biggest problem for NFT and Web3 games to solve, is that right now, in order for someone to play your game, they have to learn crypto and how to navigate money through crypto. That's a huge barrier to entry. Then they have to like understand NFTs and how all of that works. Huge barrier to entry. And then they can finally play your game. When in reality, it needs to be the opposite. It needs to be someone should be able to come in and play your game and know nothing about crypto and NFTs. But as they build up their character and their gear and join your community, then they can start to learn that, oh, wow, all of this stuff I'm earning in crypto raiders, this is actual, I could sell this gear on the market. I could sell my character. I've spent 6 months in this game. I can now go sell my character for $500. You know what I mean? And then that's like the red pill that gets people then to understand NFT and crypto and all of that.
It's like an entertaining red pill too, right? Like a WoW tutorial where they were walking you through level 1.
Exactly.
That's more engaging than being like, here's a MetaMask tutorial.
And you're way more willing to learn all of that crap when you have a legendary weapon that's worth $100. Then you're like, I want to learn crypto. Like, I want to figure out how I can sell this item. So that's the biggest challenge that we're working on. So we've already made an infrastructure improvement. So now people can just log in and play on any device. So you don't have to interact with your MetaMask wallet to play Crypto Raiders. You can just log it on your mobile phone after you set up your account and play. So I'm not sure if it was Crypto Stam. I think he was, because he said he was on vacation. He was at the beach playing Crypto Raiders, and he was like, name another game where you can do that. You know what I mean? And so that's our first step. But eventually we want to get to a point where just any player can hear Crypto Raiders and they can get in and they can start playing and experiencing the game, and then learn the complex infrastructure that we're built on secondary.
I do love the mobile aspect there, but Crypto Stamina, just take a vacation, man. Come
on.
Vacation, like, you're on the beach, just enjoy IRL. No, but that's awesome that you guys have implemented that. We're getting into like mechanics of the game, and I promise like this, I want to ask one more question. Lightning can be a lightning question, but we will get into gameplay mechanics for people in the chat. And Brian actually had a really interesting and relevant comment there as you were talking. He said, I want to have a crypto raider, but I can't afford it. That's another thing, right? About getting into this NFT space. But lightning question, as it comes to games that influenced you to build Crypto Raiders, the traditional, what games, what gameplay have you had throughout your life that led you to this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even joking, I clocked probably at least 2 years of time in World of Warcraft, like actual time, not like I played it for 7 or 8 years, but like 2 years like in game. Both my co-founders have clocked like over a year in game World of Warcraft. Like we played that. I literally remember riding my bike to Best Buy to buy World of Warcraft as a teenager. And just I played it so much to the point that my dad made me join the lacrosse team because he said like you need a life. Like this is an unhealthy level of video gaming. We played a ton of Counter-Strike Go, not super relevant to our game, but we played a lot of that. Played a lot of Dota style games, played a lot of RuneScape. And then recently I've been playing a game called Slay the Spire. And a couple of years ago I played Hearthstone. So, we're also looking at mechanics from those games as well. We actually are launching today a new game mode at Crypto Raiders that's based off of Slay the Spire. So we definitely take the philosophy that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a ton of new types of games out there, existing games out there that we can learn from, and we can take cool mechanisms and add our own flavor to it. I haven't played a lot of Path of Exile, but one of my co-founders has played a lot of Path of Exile, and a lot of people on our team have played a lot of Path of Exile. So that's another influence. MapleStory, great OG game.
Wow.
Yeah. So everybody in our team, we have a team of 20, all gamers, like all lifelong gamers.
If any of you are League of Legends players, I still play a ton of League of Legends. Unfortunately, I think my life is like filled with toxicity because of that game. I just feel like I don't have enough time to get good at an MMO to put
I feel
that time. So.
I went into we have a couple of different pretty big names in the crypto space that are working with us now, and they hosted a Dota like casual 5v5 tournament on Sunday, and I hadn't played Dota in like 2 or 3 years. So I load in as Bristleback and get destroyed, and I was so embarrassed. And so the second game I pulled out Earthshaker and like landed some clutch, some stun combos, and some ults, and kind of restored my honor. So I'm hoping I get invited back to the next tournament.
Yeah, they're like, that Earthshaker, man, he was good. But
they're like, never pull out Bristleback again, though, dude. Never pull out Bristleback again.
It's hard. Just build tank and you'll be fine. But
I know. I was getting wrecked by a Drow Ranger in lane, and so that was a double problem. I fed the carry and got behind.
Jeez. Yeah. Go next. All right. So we will go next to the actual gameplay mechanics here. So that was really like a great breakdown of just your timeline in crypto and how you got into the NFT space and then gaming in general. So let's touch on, for someone who is very brand new to Crypto Raiders, including myself, how do we get involved? What does that gameplay look like? Like, just give us a quick breakdown and then we'll make our way deeper.
Yeah, so at the core right now, the game is fairly simple when you get in for the first time. That we have like 7 different dungeons, and we have level recommendations of which ones you should be raiding. But basically, you're going into a dungeon, you're fighting an enemy, and if you beat that enemy, you're getting XP and you're getting loot. So XP is going to help you level up. It's max level 8 right now. If you buy a new character, it's level 1. And then the items, of course, improve your ability to beat better and better in dungeons. When you get to the end game, we have duels tournaments where you're 1v1 PvP tournaments against other Crypto Raider characters. And right now, we have a daily tournament, $1,000 prize pool. So we've had multiple people so far this month that have made $2,000-$3,000. Just playing tournaments. And then we have a new game mode coming out, Endless Dungeon, as well. That's for the end game. So it's a similar model to RuneScape and World of Warcraft, where you're basically grinding, leveling up your character, trying to get them better gear, get them to the end game, and then you can play all sorts of cool game modes.
So as far as it comes to the PvP mode, is that skill based or is that like turn based?
Turn based. Yeah,
okay.
So it's turn based. The whole game is like turn based. So you'll attack, then the enemy will attack back. Right now, the combat isn't the most complex that we'd like it. Right now, there's basically 2 actions that you can take on any turn. But in the coming weeks, we're adding in class and talent tree abilities. So there's going to be a lot more optionality. People are going to be able to spec to be a warrior, a paladin, a barbarian, a wizard, a druid, a rogue, and you'll get different abilities based on that class. And then that's really going to increase the flavor of the duels tournaments, because then it's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm a strength paladin going up against a int wizard. Like, how do I need to time my different abilities to try to beat them, etc. So really excited for the coming months.
Yeah, I'm getting a couple questions here about Endless Dungeon and the details behind that, and specifically a couple were asking about like the difficulty of Endless Dungeon, specifically for people who like aren't looted out.
Yeah. So Endless Dungeon is a new play mode inspired by Slay the Spire, and Unsung in our community also kind of got lit the fire behind this idea. But basically how it works is you load in to level 1, and you're going to be fighting an enemy mob. And if you beat them, you go to level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, until you eventually die. What's really interesting and exciting about Endless Dungeons is that the mobs that you're facing are actually NFTs owned by another player. And if their mob kills a crypto raider, they actually earn Aurum. So the mobs are like a passive play to earn mechanic in crypto raiders, where you can actually, strategize owning different mobs, and those mobs, as more people play Endless Dungeons, they earn more for you. On the player side, basically how it works is the farther you progress in the dungeon, the better your gear roll is going to be. But even lower players, like even if you're not max geared, you're still going to be able to enjoy Endless Dungeon, because if you get to level 4, I tested today with my mid-level character, and I was getting to like level 5, level 6. The loot drops that you'll get are still going to be good. So it's still going to be a great progression thing for players to improve their gear. And we're also probably going to turn on some Aurum rewards for the players themselves as well. So there'll be an earning mechanic for the players and for the owners of the mobs. So in how it works is our mobs NFTs, there's like 7 different rarities. So there's fodder, common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, mythic. So like a fodder, you can 2-shot if you're a really strong hero, versus a mythic, like you're going to struggle even to beat them. So how it works is every level you random roll for what kind of mob you're going to face. But the deeper you go into the dungeon, the higher a chance that you're going to roll a mythic or a legendary or an epic, and they're going to ruin your party. Yeah, so it's a lot of people are really excited because they own mobs or they're raider players themselves, so they want to test out the new mode. I've been playing it today. It's so much fun. And basically what we're doing is we're running a 2-week contest. We're going to do a few days of testing just to make sure everything's working well, and then we're going to do a 2-week contest where if you play Endless Dungeons, you're going to have a chance to win a mob NFT. And the person who progresses the farthest in the dungeon, number 1, is going to win a mythic mob, which I think the current floor is like 18 or 19 ETH. So it's going to be really fun to see people like try to progress through Endless Dungeons. We're going to do that contest for 2 weeks. And then after that, we're going to turn on the loot drops for the players themselves. So the contest is to allow us to gather testing data and allow the community to like have fun and win some cool prizes.
I think we like skipped a couple steps with the introductory piece. I think we're deep into the crypto raiders rabbit hole, which is awesome, but it is kind of ironic to me that like as an NFT game builds out its like, systems, it becomes harder and harder to understand for someone new.
Totally.
And I just like there's generations, there's recruitments. How does someone get involved if they're like watching this and they're like, hey, I want to actually play today, right now?
Yeah, so the best way to just jump into the game is to buy a floor raider. So right now that'd be generation 4, and they're anywhere from like 0.08 to 0.09 right now. And then that's how you can get in the game and start playing and experiencing all of that. The generations just work. It's a recruitment mechanism. So every X number of days, raiders can recruit another generation if they want to, if they have the Aurum to do it, etc. So like the first ones we launched of course is generation 1. They recruited generation 2, generation 3. Now we're at generation 4. So people don't have to worry too much about the different generations, except that The earlier generations, they have a multiplier to their rewards. So they'll earn more Orem over time than a Gen 4. But the difference isn't extreme, where like you don't want to play a Gen 4. Like you're still going to have a great time playing a new generation.
And that generation will continue down to like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in perpetuity.
Yeah, and we have all sorts of controls. So basically, like we can turn off recruitment if the supply is getting too high. One lesson we've definitely learned from some games like Zedrun and Axie out there is like you don't want to just allow runaway inflation on the character side, because as soon as you have a player dip, then you just have bloated supply. So we're keeping an eye on the character levels. It's crazy though, the amount of people that just hold our raiders. We have like 34,000 raiders out there. And there's like 700 for sale on OpenSea, because most people are playing or they want multiple to run different builds. You're very much right that there's a lot of complexity to the game right now if you just like look at all of the different things. So I think the simplest way to get in the game is just to buy a raider, join our Discord, and just start playing dungeons. And you'll start to learn all the other like complex things over time. You'll start to understand mob, NFTs. You'll start to understand questing. You'll start to understand recruitment, all of that stuff. But you don't have to understand all of that to just get involved in to play. All you need to do to play is buy a crypto raider, sign up on the website, join the Discord, and you'll be off to the races.
Can you break down how the meta changes work in these, like at least like the philosophy of meta changes in the Web3 space? You mentioned like runaway inflation and stuff like that. How do you view meta changes in Web3? Because in Web2, it's fairly easy. It comes directly from the studios. Is there a point where the community gets involved in Web3?
Yeah, I mean, so we're in constant communication with our community. So like before we rolled out our recent recruitment updates, we talked to a lot of members in our community, especially members that owned a lot of crypto raiders. And we said, hey, I think it was Philip earlier mentioned, I want to get into crypto raiders, but I can't afford one. Like ideally we want a base raider to cost as much as like a normal video game, to cost like $50. Right now at 0.09, it costs like $250 or what have you. So like we talked to our community and they saw the benefit of increasing the character supply to get the cost down so that new players can join the game affordably versus like being like, no, let's like really try to inflate the prices so I can make more money in the short term. So it's awesome that our community is like aligned with us on the long term. But you're completely right. In Web 2, if you want to make a change to the game, you kind of just make a change to the game. In Web 3, there's all sorts of things you have to consider. Like, is this going to affect the value of holdings people have, right? Like if you nerf a weapon and the day before someone paid a lot of money for that weapon, you don't really have to deal with that in Web 2. In Web 3, you can have a very angry person, and rightfully so. They bought something because it was good, and now it's not so good anymore, right? And a lot of those challenges we're trying to learn along the way, to be honest.
That is super interesting because like Blizzard can make a change to World of Warcraft, and it's not going to affect like their stock price.
Exactly.
Like they can make like broad sweeping changes, like make their game completely shit, and WoW sucks now. But as far as like those mini changes, it's not going to have like a token price effect.
Exactly. Whereas like if we change a mechanic and it unknowingly causes inflation in Orem, and Orem tanks, and because Orem tanks, then Raider tanks because people aren't earning as much. It's crazy when you think about like the trickle down issues that you can face. There's the token complexity. There's once again, if you're nerfing a weapon or you're nerfing a build, like those have more like psychological impact on players than if they're just playing World of Warcraft.
Imagine nerfing like a 50 ETH weapon.
Oh, I know. It's like it's my greatest fear, to be honest with you. It's my greatest fear. I mean, literally Vitalik says that he started Ethereum because he got pissed off because Blizzard nerfed one of his characters. And like, I can't sleep at night because of that. Cause I'm like, Crypto Raiders is going to create the next Vitalik because we're going to like nerf some guy or girl's weapon and they're going to just go revenge, start a revolution on us.
Create Web 4.
Exactly.
Oh man, I want to talk about tokenomics really quick, but before that, like specific comment on Raider as well as Orem. From your personal standpoint, this doesn't have to do with crypto raiders. Do you, when you look at a project in the NFT space or like a gaming project, if I like said, hey, you have to pick one, are you investing in the token side or the NFT side? if you're not an active member of that community?
That's a fantastic question. I think it depends on the success that the project receives, right? So I think if a project has moderate success, you probably make more on the NFT side, to be honest. But if a project has breakout success, then you probably make way more on the tokens. So I think on Axie Infinity, if you had just invested in the NFTs, you wouldn't have made nearly as much if you owned AXS from like sub $1 or wherever it was at. Same with the sandbox, right? Like sandbox land 10x, sandbox the coin 100x, right? But I don't think that you necessarily see the same impact at the lower and the mid band, right? Because like a moderate success, maybe you have 50,000 players, 100,000 players, depending on how the NFTs are structured in the game, those could be appreciating in value as that core player base really enjoys it. But the token is going to be reflective of like the future potential of the business, right? So, you know, I think it depends on like what you think the long-term potential is. So like, I love NFTs. So like when I see a new gaming project, I usually buy the NFTs first. Because another thing that I know is that tokenomic structures sometimes take time to evolve and play out. So a game can airdrop tokens to everybody, but if there's no use for the token in game yet, then where's the buying pressure going to come from, right?
Usually the supply on those NFTs is a lot lower too. So like, for example, Star Atlas has like a lot of supply of their token over time that's getting distributed. Those specific ships, they're capped, you know?
Exactly. And so those can, and it also is importantly true with Star Atlas, when the token is already appreciated to a certain level, then your gains there, like, isn't Star Atlas already trading in the billions of dollars, right? So like, if it gets to Axie Infinity levels, maybe it's only a 3 or a 5x from here. But that rare ship that you own could 10x, 15x. You know, like Vox Collectibles did like actually a 50 or 60x run on their NFTs. And I think their token only like 10 or 20x. So like Gala may actually be an exception to only. Exactly, right? Sounds crazy. In stocks, you'd be happy with like 30%. I'm here only a 10x, man. It wasn't that good. But yeah, man, I think it's a really interesting, question to think about. I've also noticed that there's flows between the two, right? So when the Meta news came out about Facebook, I bought a lot of Sandbox token. And Sandbox token skyrockets in price off the news. And then I go over and I look at the NFTs and they haven't started moving yet. So I sold all my Sandbox tokens, bought the NFTs, and then
look at this guy.
They like 3x from there. So it's also important to know, like, the same thing happened with the Crypto Raiders token. Our token took off like a rocket because all the DeFi people kind of got hip to it. And then our NFTs moved like a week later, and then they doubled or tripled in price. So it's also like timing, like which one of the two has made like the last big move, right? You probably want to invest in the other because
no, dude, this is great. Like, I think stay on it if you need to, but literally, like, I think that's the second wave, making the first wave a little more richer, and then the first wave comes back and is buying those NFTs.
Exactly.
Cool, man. So let's talk about Crypto Raider specifically. Raider token, Aurum token, utility for both, future utility for both. Kind of give me the breakdown with those two tokens.
Yeah, so the Raider token is similar to AXS. It's our governance utility token. So it'll eventually drop in game. It doesn't yet, and we'll eventually have some uses for it in game. It doesn't yet, but what it does right now is that Raider stakers, they get 50% of all Aurum that gets spent in game goes back to Raider stakers. So that's an innovation that we did on the tokenomic side, where if you're a player, a strategy that you could do is you could join the game, you could buy some Raider tokens and stake it, and then the Aurum that you're receiving from staking the Raider, you can use that to play the game and get your character up to level 8. And then when you're maxed out, then you can sell that Aurum or do all sorts of things in game. So that's a unique thing on the Raider side. How people earn Raider right now, the only way to earn Raider until we get it dropping in game, the only way to earn Raider is to provide liquidity to the liquidity pools. So whether that's Raider Matic, Raider ETH, Aurum Matic, Aurum USDC, those LP providers earn Raider, and that's how the supply of Raiders increase.
Quick swap.
We use Sushi Swap over on Polygon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's dope. Keep going, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the Aurum side, so the Aurum is similar to SLP. It's our in-game currency that you use to do everything. So right now, you currently use it to buy more dungeon keys. So our model works a little differently than Axie Infinity. You get a certain amount of free runs per week, and then you can pay for additional runs. So Endless Dungeons coming out, you can run that free once per day. But let's say you're having fun and you want to like run 10 that day. You can go buy dungeon keys and do another 10 runs that day. And so the interesting thing about that is that our game already has a real use case for Aurum, and people spend a lot. It's over $100,000 USD a month, maybe close to 200,000 now, is spent on people playing dungeons in our game. So it has a real use case. You also you can buy a stat reset. So if you get a rare weapon, but it doesn't work with your current build, you have to pay Aurum to get a stat reset key and to do that reset. There's going to be some Aurum syncs on the questing side of our game as well. So that's one thing I'm definitely really proud of, is that functionality wise, our in-game currency token like has real use cases, and they're not like theoretical, they're actually being used. There's actually a really cool chart that someone in our community like showed, but I think it's something crazy, like 100,000 tokens over the last 5 days per day. 100,000 Aurum tokens were bridged into our game, which means people are using it to buy dungeon keys and do stat resets. So when you think about if we can 10x our player base, if we can get to 30, 40, 50K players in the next few months, how much Aurum is being used in game, that's great for Aurum. But then also, if you're a Raider staker, like you're capturing the upside of our game economy.
I think the PFP projects that are launching fungible tokens without any use case, like you're saying, it's just so short-sighted, man. Like, yeah, because go ahead.
I'm so with you on that, because the problem is even if they eventually add uses for it, how long has it just been
distributing
the supply? How long has it been distributing? You have to play so much catch up just to get back to square.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to touch on Unity and that port you're looking to make. So, not familiar with the game, I just need to know, like, what does that move even look like, and what does that provide for the game?
Yeah, great question. So the biggest reason for the port is that we're just going to be able to do much more complex things in the game from a feature standpoint, and then also improve just the design quality and aesthetics. And we can do that on our current system, but the benefit of Unity or Unreal is they have so many toolkits and packs that you can install. So like, for example, we want to eventually have multiplayer experiences. So we want you to be able to go into a dungeon with 5 or 10 people and you're like trying to take down a legendary boss. Or we want you to go in and have a 5v5 PvP battle. We can build that on our current infrastructure, but it's really hard to custom code like P2P interactions, versus with Unreal and Engine, they just have all of these toolkits that make that, instead of having to custom build all of that out, you can accomplish those more complex features way faster. So that's why we're porting over there. We're still like rapidly shipping updates to our core game. It's not like we're just sitting there like, okay, when Unity comes, then we'll get back to it. So it's a little bit of a challenge. The Unity team is making good initial progress, but I explain it to people. Have you ever seen those shots of like airplanes doing like mid-flight refueling? Like that's how we're gonna have to like do the final port over to Unity. Like we have to get Unity up and running and like close enough to do the handoff to our current system, which is on Phaser. So it's a complex project. It's going to take some time, but like on a 3-year horizon, it's a no-brainer. Just on a 3 to 6 month horizon, getting it out there, flipping our existing game into it, and then expanding fully on the Unity side. That's the plan.
I've been a desktop gamer my whole life. I understand that mobile gamers and mobile games take the cake when it comes to users. How do you think about that as like a co-founder of a project that is, looking to get adopted? Like, are you planning on like really attacking the mobile gaming side?
Yeah, I'm a PC gamer at heart. You know what I mean? I play everything on the PC. I don't touch an Xbox or a PS5. No regrets. You know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah.
play sports games. Not that I don't like them. They just don't build them for PC. So I'm all about PC gaming, but you can't deny the growth of mobile gaming and the convenience of mobile gaming. So, for example, if I'm on my computer and I can play Hearthstone, I'm going to play it there. But like, I also can play Hearthstone on my phone. So there's a lot of times where I have 15 minutes and I can play a couple games of Hearthstone on my phone, but I'm not near my computer. And when you magnify that across all sorts of players, and there's actually a surprisingly high amount of players that don't have a PC these days, and they just do everything via mobile, right? So,
Well, yeah, let's talk about the demographics there. Like
yeah,
a country like the Philippines, you're not having a
yep,
bunch of desktop users. Is
they're
that
not.
is that even something you want from your user base though? Like I hesitate to like go jump into this convo. You can kind of
Yeah,
see where like I'm skirting around, but like what do you look at when it comes to a demographic? Do you want that demographic to be like, I don't even know if I want to ask this question live, but like
ask it.
the are you looking at like the user base when it comes to like how much money they earn? Like, is that something that you guys? Because again, like a lot of Axie Infinity comes from people that are trying to make a living because
Yeah,
they don't make enough money doing what they're doing in normal life.
totally. I mean, we want to attract all players. Right now, we actually attract more people in America and Europe than Southeast Asia, although we have a very loyal Southeast Asia community. Um, I'm sort of like agnostic about the what kind of players that we get, but as you said, the intent of the players is important. Like
Mm-hmm.
if 90% of your player base is just playing your game because uh, sadly enough they live in a country where like playing this game is like their way out of
Yeah,
some
exactly.
really not fun jobs. um, we want that in our game, but if it's 90% of the player base, it can cause some real issues, and some people wonder if that's what Axie Infinity is dealing with. And so I think that games have to be structured so that there's a huge mixture of players. There's players
Mm-hmm.
that are coming in and they're net spenders. That's what gaming has been for 20 years. Net spenders. There's been no net earners, right? So other than esports.
Yeah.
So we can have we want a healthy mix where it's fine if people come in and they just want to try to make money playing crypto raiders, but we also want the majority of our players to be playing the game because they enjoy it. And they're having fun. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to be creating opportunities for people in third world countries because
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
nobly good. At the same time, you have to build an ecosystem that can sustain it. Else it doesn't matter. Because guess what the worst kind of story is if you get a bunch of people in third world countries that now rely on your income, and then something bad happens to the game and it all goes to crap. Like, do they come out net ahead? Like the
Mm-hmm.
jury's still out on that. So for us, that's why we've been very cautious about just like turning on the faucet and just making our game like crazy play to earn. Because just mathematically, the only way that everyone can be earning money is if you're going through parabolic growth. And as soon as the growth of your game normalizes, stabilizes, or even just grows significantly less, the kind of the structure falls out from underneath itself. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah. That's fun. I hate to use the term, and I'm using it like very facetiously here, but like pyramid schemes are a lot like that, where like the more you kind of grow, and the person that comes in front of the other person is that
Yep.
growth
The
continues
early ones make all the money.
until there's no one above that other person. Like
Yep.
that's how pyramid schemes essentially work. And again, I use that super facetiously, and I think you did a great job answering that question. The really how that started was our talk between PC and mobile gamers and how that
Yep.
demographic looks different.
Is
So
very, very different. PC
yeah,
gamers are much more willing to pay for a game. Mobile gamers are much more interested in free games. There's
yeah,
definitely different profiles there. I mean, my ideal world, I look at my experiences with World of Warcraft, which is that at one point in time, I paid like $300, $400 for someone to power level my account from
mm,
level 40 to level 60. And what did I do there? I essentially traded them money for time spent in game.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then later down the road, I had a character that I spent a ton of time on and really geared them up. And I sold my account for like $600 or $700, right? And like, that's, I think, where the sustainable like play and earn mechanics come, is that when people are getting something back from their time, but it's not like everybody is millionaires because they're playing video games. I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not a reality. It can't work that way. But how it can work is that you join a game, you buy a character for $50, you play that game for 6 or 8 months because it's a fun game, and you go sell that character for $200. So you quadrupled your money while you were playing something that you enjoyed. And whoever bought the character from you bought because they don't want to have to grind up to that level. They just want to drop right into the game. And when I think about that as a player, I can see myself on both ends of those equations. I can see myself playing a game for 6 months and then getting bored of it and selling out and making a profit. And I can also see myself buying into an existing game, letting someone else exit because I want to jump in at a certain level. That's what I think the true future looks like. Is it's going to boil down just like it is in the real life. For your hour in on something, someone's paying you money for their time. It's going to be the same model.
That was a fantastic discussion. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it at home. Deejus is in chat, and I think he does a great job. He or she is doing a great job of wrapping up this combo. They say play and earn, not play to earn, is probably the way to say that in a single sentence. So great job there. We only have about 10 more minutes here, guys. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I had a comment earlier that basically said permadeath. Like it, that was the only comment, and I got PTSD of like my Tamagotchis, my RuneScape characters, all this stuff where I was just like crying because I like lost all my rune items and all these different things because I was in the wilderness. But I haven't seen this in the NFT gaming space, and it almost is more important because when you have the concept of permadeath, you're actually losing assets that are worth money, to say it in one sentence. But how do you view permadeath as it comes to NFT assets?
Yeah, so I think we kind of pioneered the idea, and we still have yet to implement it because it's such a complex thing to implement because you have to do it properly, and you have to do it where it's not everybody that has to experience that, because basically it's usually a subset of hardcore gamers that really want it. They love the risk versus reward. And then there's a larger subset of more casual players that don't want that inherent risk. And so that's what we're trying to balance out right now. There's a couple of different options that we can take. So like the most hardcore thing you could do is we could have a dungeon and you go in and it's permadeath. And if you beat the dungeon, you walk away with some great gear. That's your reward. But if you die in the dungeon, the most hardcore version would be you lose everything. The character dies, the gear dies, like the gear's gone, everything's gone. Great from a deflationary perspective. There's a lot of people in our community that they have a list of crypto raider NFTs that they're ready to send into the pits of hell. Like they're ready for it. They're excited for it.
Ooh, deflationary. I never thought about that either.
Totally. And that's like a big thing is that like if characters do have an ability to die, then, that's a way that supply can go down over time for your raiders, and that no one else has really like looked at doing that. The other thing we can do that's like a little less hardcore is if you die, you lose all of your gear and your character goes back to level 1. So then you still have a character. It's not like you're out, the cost of a character, but you've lost your gear, you've lost your leveling, you have to start from scratch. That's a little less hardcore. It's still very punishing. You could still lose hundreds of dollars of gear and on your character and all of the time that you've invested into it. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. And then we also have to balance out the reward side, because basically if someone's taking a higher risk, they need to be offset with a higher reward. And so we have to also do that in a calculated way so that it's balanced.
That's fair.
Yeah, because if you make it so that the rewards are really high, but then people can play the permadeath without actually dying, then all you get is item inflation. You just get items that are really strong, and that has to be balanced out by like people actually getting punished. So it's a challenging problem, but I think we have one of the best models to incorporate that.
Yeah, I think that is. Sorry, I had a comment come through that I had to ban from the server, but I think that was a great breakdown of my question. I don't think people are giving this like an adequate amount of thought because it's not being implemented in a lot of games. It really got to me when I was talking with Kieran Warwick from Illuvium, that the entertainment value of having permadeath or like assigning values, like he was like, imagine being Illuvium, seeing like the most rare, and it's like Pokemon, so like seeing the most rare Mew of that ecosystem, $100,000, and you miss the Pokeball throw, or like the throw, or the entertainment value of Raiders, where you're having a duel that's worth $100K or something like that between players. Like the value of that stream and that streamer's reaction and everything is exponential.
It's priceless. It's priceless. It's almost more entertaining. And this sounds sadistic for us as humans, but it's reality. People get more entertained by someone failing than someone actually succeeding. So I do a trading show with NFT Nick and Pio, and people enjoy watching us lose money more than actually winning money, because it's just more fun to watch, and
F and chat.
Yeah, exactly. F and chat. So like one of the things we're working on with Endless Dungeons is we already record all of the data so we can build a replayer. So what's going to be like super exciting is when you own a mob, and then you get to look at your replays and you see that your buddy got like wrecked by your mob, and you can like trash talk them and show them the video. You know what I mean? And same thing with permadeath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like showing like the top 5 biggest fails in crypto raiders this week, and it's some guy YOLOing in with $1,000 weapon. It just gets 2 shot,
You can tell we're gamers. We are getting so stoked right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so true. I love that insight that they gave. Yeah. When people see real stuff online, like, I don't know if you saw Logan Paul or whatever of the Pauls bought like $3.5 million pack of Pokemon and then ended up being fake. The entertainment value from it being fake is better than if it was real. That's why I almost wonder if it was staged, because it's more entertaining that he bought $3.5 million and it was fake.
Yeah.
And he's getting more press out of that than if it was actually real. So it lends to that similar credit. It's like people want to see someone get wrecked. People want to see someone lose a $100,000 duels tournament.
I got a comment from Asmodai, who's a great member of our community and is deep into the NFT space, saying, my first experience with permadeath in crypto was Space Commander. Luckily, they have implemented insurance in zones. That would be cool as like a tokenomics feature. You could like stake tokens for insurance.
That's a fantastic idea, honestly.
Yeah.
That's actually a really, really, really good idea.
Great job, Asmodai.
You can pay for insurance to either like fully reduce the risk, or it'd probably be better if it just like slightly reduced the risk. So like an example would be, maybe you could buy insurance and like it would keep your best item, but like you lose everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or something like that. But that's a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah. If you guys implement that, make sure like we get a referral of some kind, of course.
Oh, totally. We'll hook you up with some free mobs so you can watch people wreck.
Guys, we are wrapping up. This has been a fantastic interview, man. You've been doing a great job. Role of guilds in the space. I think, people are going to start to understand that guilds in whatever spectrum, from like the YGGs all the way down to like 2 guys that are just have a multi-sig, are going to be huge in 2022. Kind of break that down in the role of guilds in your ecosystem as well.
Yeah, so we implemented the first part of our guilds technology, which was allowing people to log in with a username and password and not having to be associated to a MetaMask wallet. And next week, we got the PR today, so we're bug testing it over the next few days, but we have the guilds feature good to go. So you'll be able to create a guild, upload a logo, invite players to your guild, and then they can run the raiders that are in your wallet. But the cool feature that we have is that they don't even need to have MetaMask set up. So you can hit up your buddy that knows how to play World of Warcraft and RuneScape, that you've been telling about NFTs for a long ass time, but they just haven't leapt in. You can literally fire them an invite to your guild invite. They can log into Crypto Raiders and they can start playing one of your characters without having a MetaMask wallet at all or any of that. So this is V1. So I'll really want to get your feedback and other people's feedback as far as the features that they like from V1, and then like where do they want to see improvement. So for example, we know that people are going to want to maybe restrict members to certain raiders and not other raiders. For example, maybe you don't want them playing your level 8s that are maxed out and geared out. You want to do that yourself, but you want them to level up your level 1s because you just don't want to have to deal with the time. Or setting up sliding scales for how to share rewards. All of those things that will come in V2, but the V1 functionality is just to get the core guild functionality out, let people battle test it, tell us the features that they want for V2. But yeah, it's super exciting. We got the PR today. The team is testing it, should be getting it out next week. And then guild functionality is here. It's ready for Crypto Raiders. Yeah,
let's talk about it like outside the Crypto Raiders ecosystem. I think you did a great job breaking it down, how it's going to work and all the features that you guys are going to have, which I think is important. I think obviously Axie Infinity was the first to implement it in a way. And, I had Metagoons, who's a guild in the NFT space, on last week. They were actually telling me about like the origin of scholarships within that Discord, which was really a really cool conversation.
That's so cool.
Let's talk about like how you think guilds are going to be involved in the NFT space, because I think it's just important for people to understand how big.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about guilds is that there's some deeper things to it that at the surface level you can't really see. So I had someone I really respect in the space, Wingarian, and he explained it as that guilds almost can operate as hedge funds in the gaming space. And you don't really understand that at first glance, but his philosophy was sort of that, like, if you look at individual games just in the real world, they kind of have their moments where they're super popular and then moments where they kind of fall out of flavor and come back. If you're investing in a singular game, like, you're really dealing with that potential volatility, whereas a guild can be exposed like a hedge fund to multiple games at the same time. And so even if one of those games goes down, they can shift their resources to the other 3 or 4 games that they're involved in that are doing really well. So from an investment perspective, or a participation perspective, guilds are really interesting because they allow like player fluidity, so if you're in a guild, you can be playing one game and it falls out of flavor, you get bored with it, you can very easily now within that guild switch to the other games that they provide. So I didn't really get that at first. I just thought as guilds as like just they acquire assets and then they essentially rent them out to scholars. I thought it was just that. And then Wingarian kind of opened me up to the understanding that no, it's like deeper than that. They're almost like hedge funds, and they can get exposure to a lot of different projects instead of like having to be all in on one project.
Yeah, and the games appreciate their community. If they grow a guild to the certain size, that is going to lead to adoption for the game. So they're almost like getting into venture capital as well. So as much as being like hedge funds and
they can pick winners. They can pick winners essentially. Like if a big guild enters your game space, like they're kingmakers in a sense. And then I also think within guilds, and we're still yet to see this full effect, but there's like a knowledge buildup. It happened in World of Warcraft guilds, right? Like guilds have knowledge embedded into them. How do you raid dungeons? The strategy behind them. How do you organize these organizations?
It's like onboarding.
It's like onboarding. Exactly. So what I'm excited for with our guild technology is that I also think we're going to see guilds form that are just players, and they end up building a guild together, but they only started out maybe with a few characters each, not enough for any of them individually to build a guild, but they kind of join forces, they collaborate, they raid higher end dungeons together, and then they share knowledge. And that can work across any sorts of games. Like what's really exciting to me is people like you and some other people that I know in the space that kind of started out as just heavy investors in NFT gaming are now becoming like the second tier of guilds that are entering the space. So we all know the YGGs and the merit circles and the guild fi and I'm missing out on a couple, but we know the big ones, right? But now there's like this new frontier. I think Bryson's is doing one as well. Like
Loot Squad.
There's a new crowd of guilds coming in, and I'm sure they're going to innovate in their own ways too.
There's a little bit of this, and I completely agree with you because I've been seeing it. And if you're interested in the play to earn space and what we're talking about, we're actually starting a guild in LADZ City in our Discord. You can go to the link; it's down in the description. How do you think this benefits maybe somebody that's not Bryson, that's not Gabby from YGG? Like, does this benefit the person that's just trying to like earn and do all these things? I guess the way that I'm trying to phrase this question is, we know that it's beneficial to the people who are buying the assets, but for someone who's out there listening to this and hearing that guilds are like going to make all this money, how can they get a slice of the pie?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, a lot of guilds are really good with like sharing the rewards in the game. And once again, if you look at it through a lens of just the, Southeast Asian markets, then you can look at guilds functionally as just like people that are playing to get an earning, like an earn out, and that's how they're trying to make money. But there's a huge Western market of players that just play games for free. And for them just to be able to play a game and get some upside, that's plus EV for them. If they come home and they play Call of Duty every day for 6 hours and they make no money, but they can go play a Call of Duty NFT game and they make, even if they make $1 an hour, still if they're playing for 6 hours and they walk away and they can go buy something at McDonald's, you know what I mean? That's net ahead of where 99% of gamers are right now. So I think a lot of gamers that are going to come into place, guilds may just be, as you said earlier, an onboarding mechanism for them. Not even so much like how they make a ton of money, but they may just start playing in guilds for free. In over 2 or 3 months, they get $300, and then they use that to go buy an asset themselves.
Start
you know what I mean?
Guild.
Yeah, exactly. And then it keeps going and going and going.
I mean, the early DeFi guys that were talking, like Kane Warwick, who founded Synthetics, and a couple of the other DeFi guys, they were talking about DeFi being like an RPG, like in Web3, like somehow. Yep. And I love that concept where like now we used to just be in World of Warcraft and try to like simulate real life into that game. Now you're seeing games come into real life, and it's a really cool like thing that's about to happen where we're able to like take games and bring their economies out of that system.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because there's some DeFi projects out there that are like gamifying DeFi, and then there's game projects out there that are adding DeFi elements to their game. So like DeFi Kingdoms, it is probably the pioneer in being sort of a DeFi model, but now they're gamifying it. And my guess is that they'll end up with a game like Crypto Raiders in 6 months or a year from now. And then we're starting out as a game, but now we're adding DeFi elements that are similar to DeFi Kingdoms. And over time, will probably look more similar than different. And so it's really interesting to kind of see the building coming from both ends, and in the likely the middle is where everyone will meet and some really cool things will happen.
I love it, man. Great conversation we're having. I think we're going to have to wrap up. So if you guys have any more questions for Nick here, definitely drop them. But man, this has been a great combo. Is there anything else as it's related to Crypto Raiders that you wanted to get out there?
That's it. Just thanks so much for having me on the show. It was great talking with you and your community. Really excited to talk more with you and learn more about the cool things that you're doing and see how we can work together.
Hell yeah, man. All right. This was the Nifty Q Show, interviewing awesome people, badass people around the space. Of course, we had to get Crypto Raiders on, and we laid down a good interview here. So we'll see you later, guys. I'll see you this week, I believe. Later. That was a terrible sign off. Later, people. Our tribe.
Dude, I do literally